What is jazz? Jazz is playing what you feel. It is the sound you hear when you close your ears and look around you in a busy intersection. How did jazz come about? Prior to and during the 18th century, slave traders took hundreds of thousands of Yorubas, Dahomians, Senegalese, and Ashantis, all of which had their own cultures, and brought them over to the cotton and tobacco plantations of the Caribbean and the Americas. The Catholic slave owners, the Spanish, the French, and the Portuguese, left the West African culture more intact than the British Protestants. The slaves were willing to disguise their own culture in order to keep it alive. As early as 1770, a preacher by name of Black Harry became famous for juicing up the dreary prayers with a rhythmic beat. However, since the African melody is that of a 5-note or pentatonic scale, and the European melody is that of a 7-note or diatonic scale, their coming together became particularly interesting and evolved into what would be pre-jazz hybrids, such as ragtime and the blues. Let us give the emergence of this evolution a window of 20 years, from 1900 to 1920. The location of this evolution is New Orleans, which was originally a French settlement. Since its lag of becoming part of the United States in the 1803's Louisiana Purchase, it was able to retain a lot of their European character much longer than any other major American city. Aided by having the most opera companies, symphonies, and music halls per capita than any other city in America, New Orleans continued to nourish the song of France, Spain, England, Scotland, Ireland, Italy, and Germany. Throughout the 19th century, New Orleans retained a French-speaking upper class known as the Creoles, initially French and Spanish, ultimately of Spanish and African descent. They were educated musically and academically in the classical European manner. Now, after the Louisiana Purchase, whites began pouring into the city, forcing the working-class blacks out of the good neighborhoods and jobs. In 1890, through the continuous spread of discrimination, even the sophisticated Creoles had to move uptown, which was quickly becoming the ghetto, and suddenly found themselves playing alongside the homemade black musicians who improvised as they went along. This coincided with the relatively recent end of the Civil War, after which there was suddenly an abundance of cheap military marching band instruments. On paper, the Civil War freed the slaves, but in real life it gave them trumpets. Brass bands then dominated the music scene, appearing at parades, dances, riverboat trips, and even funerals. Feeling of intimacy is created through use of smaller, shorter, pinched spaces. Such spaces not only provide proximity to the performer, but also proximity to the other members of the audience, creating an overall sense of camaraderie. To retain the peaceful feeling of intimacy and the cozy atmosphere of the dimly lit venues, substances such as comfort food, alcohol, and marijuana are consumed at and outside the venues.